Hi, this is Isabelle Litzler, Pleiad HC, the place to be to develop your skills and grow your potential. So today I want to talk about development, not-for-profit, and how to work in this sector in Switzerland in general. So my first tip is really about your profile. You know, what type of profile do you have? So if you're non-EU, for example, you're probably much interested in this video because, as I said before, there's only very few options for you, and one of them is the not-for-profit sector. And even within not-for-profit, it would only be organizations that can hire globally, and that's even smaller portion. So maybe there's probably about 10 organizations you can target at most in Geneva. The rest will still hire people locally because they need to do a work permit and request it, etc. So they won't go for an international employee, which is a problem. I think having worked in human resources in those sectors, it's definitely complicated to hire the resources globally when you have the work permit issue, but that's a separate topic and it's a political one, so that's not the topic of this video. This video is really about, you know, how can you work your way through to get a job in development in the UN or international organizations. So number one is really your profile. You know, what do you have to offer? So the mistake that a lot of people make is that they think they just send their resume the way it is. They think, okay, this is my experience, I put it on a resume and I send it through. The problem is that each function, each sector is very different. They want different things. So if you apply in the watch sector, they're looking for specific skills. If you apply for banking, you know, they're looking for people who have portfolios, who worked in wealth management, etc. If you work in development, they're looking for people with field experience, who have, you know, different experiences working, you know, with different countries in health or in children or women's rights, etc. So it's very, very particular, and usually people do a master's in that topic. So people who enter development have masters in international rights or law or international development. So it's quite specific. So if you have a private sector-ish type of experience or you've done something completely different, you can't just present your resume the way it is because it's not going to be valuable immediately for an employer in development. You know, if they receive a resume from someone in banking, for example, they're going to say, great, you know, we do human rights. What's the point? So you have to work your way through, you know, making sense of your experience. For example, if you worked in banking, you know, maybe there's some value where you know where some people are that provide grants for not-for-profit. So you can, you know, maybe target funding, program funding. That's going to be your niche where you have value for development. But again, I think it's hard to do this work on your own, you know, because you don't understand what development needs. You don't understand how those organizations work. So if you want to work for them, you have first to understand what it is that they need and do this work of transforming your resume from a private sector resume to a development approved resume is a transformation that you need help with, I believe. Now, I have some people who contact me and say, well, I just need some contacts. No, this is not enough. This is the step 3 on my method. The step 1 is really positioning yourself, doing your resume and your cover letter right, having a great profile, and then the network can support that. But how can a network support you if you don't really know what it is that you can do for an organization? So you're going to come across very confused. So for example, if you have a network contact and you say, hey, I worked in banking, you know, in wealth, and for 10 years, you know, in, let's say in India or in Australia, well, I work in development in Geneva. Right now, I need someone in program funding who can get me a grant. You're not really helping me, you know, so I'm probably not going to pay attention to you. Now, if you come across and say, hey, you know, I looked at your website, I see you're looking for grants, you know, in funding. Hey, I have wealth management, and I do happen to know people in this sector. I can put you in touch. You know, I think I'd be great value for your organization. Now I'm listening to you. So you see the difference. The first speech, I can't really see what value you're bringing me. The second speech, I'm like, hey, you know, maybe I'll listen to you because it seems like you know people in the areas that I need. So always look at it as what can you do for the recruiter or for the organization that you're targeting, whether it's development or that could be applicable in any field really. And I find that people don't do this work. They just present their experience the way it is and they think that, you know, people will make sense of it. You know, they're not career translators. I think I could call that career translation. You need to, even if you're not completely changing careers, when you're just changing sectors, for example, you still need to make sense of it for the organization you're targeting. So that's a little bit of adaptation you need to do. And for me, until you do this, your application is not going to go through. So that was for your profile. Number two is, how do you apply for the not-for-profit sector? Most jobs are online because they do have to advertise their positions. It's part of, for example, the UN. There's a lot of policies that do say in human resources you need to put the vacation up for visibility. Now, it's not for every job. Some jobs are only visible internally, meaning that you will never see them, especially if you're not in Geneva. So you just have to be conscious of that. You just have to know some positions are not advertised. It's very much the case for a lot of jobs. But all you can do is just prepare yourself for the ones that you do see online. If you're outside of Switzerland, that's already a lot to deal with, I find. You have enough. But just think about that, rather than to think about what are the jobs I'm missing that is not visible, think about what are the jobs that I can see right now and really work through each application with method and with organization. So if you see a job that you could apply for, let's say you've done number one, which is to translate your experience into something that makes sense for them. Number two would be, now I'm going to build a very good application for this organization that makes sense. I'm going to go through their 10 pages of application, which is the way it is in the UN. They want to test your motivation and your grit, and you need to show that you really want to work there. So that's number two, apply with method, take the time, review everything, do a spell check on your application. That's minimum, I would say. So do something nice, come out as outside of the average person that just sends, some resume with 2 words of cover letter, just do something very good. Number three, how do people get selected? In the international sector, international development sector, it's really a method. So you have to apply online. Everyone has to apply online, even if they have resources and contacts internally, they still have to go through the online process. So the people that do get internal network, maybe they get a little word, that's put out for them. It's always a plus, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And the main thing is really to do a nice application online, to come across as someone of value. Make sure that you use the right keywords, that are linked to the application. So that's also very technical, and this is the work that I do. This is my job as a consultant. I help you, build the right profile, build the right resume, make sure that your application matches. So it's technical. I mean, people can see, okay, career coaches, I don't need it. I just need contacts. No, you do need career coaching because you need to build your profile up to be the type of employee that organizations want. So, and it gets very technical. You don't know everything, especially if you're not in Switzerland. So again, I want to just put that out there, that to be selected, you need to have done the right things. So there's no such thing as luck. And I know people say in my social media, it takes luck, it takes network. Not really. I mean, people who do have a little bit of support are usually people who have already a great application. So you need the two. So in other words, if I'm worthless as an employee and I have a great contact, that's not going to help because at some point the worthlessness will be visible. However, if I'm a great person, great employee, and I have the network contact, then it's a winning game, I would say. But most people don't have the contacts, but I would say if you're really, really good at what you do and you have a great profile, even without the network contact, you'll get through. I really believe that. So I wouldn't focus so much on who do I know, even if it's helpful, and that's part of my package as well. It's the supporting thing. But the main thing you need to be focused on is being a great resource for the companies that you're targeting. What are you going to bring them that's going to be so valuable that they won't care where you're coming from. They won't care if you have network contacts. You're just very good at what you do. So think about that. I'll leave you with that as a food for thought for the week, to see what are you really good at? What's your thing, and then everything else becomes very easy. So thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.